rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, a horrific event has occurred today, and I will get into that, into what we appear to know, and also I want to discuss a little bit more about what is it going to be expected out of all of the leftist lunatics that are out here for it. But first, let's go ahead and get into the let's go ahead and get the show started off here appropriately. First of all, before we do anything, I would like a moment of silence for those victims of this horrific shooting. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to be silent for roughly about a minute here for those two young victims of two that I know of. I've heard there might be a third that may have passed, but if we can have a moment of silence for the victims, I would appreciate it. All right. That was a little bit shorter than a minute, but that's okay. Silence is bad for radio and audio stuff. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. First, up on tap is Kat Pekarik is up on tap for the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and join along with Kat as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This land is your land, America the beautiful. God bless America.
All right, and of course I thank you, Kat, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge played here on the program. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing or reciting the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and either send it to me via email, share it to me, or, get it to me somehow. The best place to go is to send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. And tonight being Whiskey Wednesday, let me go ahead and do that.
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right, it's Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. Now, I'm probably going to get shot by all my Whiskey Warrior P1s, but you know what? I don't really, I'm at the point, I'm just going to do it anyway. For the first time on the program, I am not drinking straight whiskey. Mrs. Whiskey was out and she found this. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Blackberry. Now, I've been talking about on this program about the mixture between Crown Royal Blackberry and lemonade. Well, this works just as well. There it is. It's about a 50-50 mix of Jack Black and lemonade. It's a nice refreshing drink, honestly. Now, let me go take my requisite sip here. All right. Now, I'm just going to point out, realistically, I would not drink this straight, okay? It's not my cup of tea, straight. But that being said, it is good in the mix. Now, the difference between that and the Crown is I could actually drink the Crown straight. So I don't know. Like I said, I tried this straight and it tasted artificially flavored. So, yeah, it was interesting, in comparison to the Crown. And I have both. I have the Crown over there too, but anyway, so yeah, so tonight I'm drinking my mixture. This is the blackberry lemonade. We'll call it a Jack Blackberry lemonade in this case. So, You do have to keep it mixed though, because otherwise the alcohol will separate. So, anyway, so there you go. All right, yeah, it is Tennessee mash stuff. I know, Bonnie, you're a purist, a bourbon purist, Kentucky bourbon purist. I get it. All right, let's go ahead and talk about tonight's headline sponsor, which is TGRN.net. That stands for True Grit Roots Network. That's our home on the web, TGRN.net. And hey, I just got told that there are some upcoming events that you're really going to want to take a listen to with regards to both Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio and Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. Sorry, I'm watching everybody in the chat talking about bourbon and things like that. But yeah, go and grab, it's tgrn.net is where you can go. You can listen to us straight through the web browsers. There's a couple of widgets that you can click and listen to the music directly from your browser, or you can download our app from the Google Play as well as the App Store for Apple devices. Take us along with you. Put us on your mobile device and take us everywhere. I listen at times when I'm out in the yard doing, yard stuff. So always grab it, get the apps on there, put them on the apps, and there you go. And by the way, too, you can grab it on your Alexa as well as on a Roku or smart TV. You can do that, too. You can look up Live 365 has an app on those televisions, and you can grab it and listen to the station right there on your television. So you, instead of sitting and watching TV, you can turn on Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio or Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio through the Live 365 app and listen right through your television. All great connectivity, items, devices, whatever. You can do it all. And go and check us out today. That's tgrn.net is our home on the web once again. And like I said, there's a couple of live things you're going to have to listen, because there's a couple of live things that are coming up in the next few weeks that, a new, I'm hearing of a new album release on Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio, and another event that's coming up in like 2 weeks on Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. So you got to go and check us out. Check out both channels. Figure out which one you like. I don't know, what the heck. Listen to both of them. Who cares? But anyway, go ahead and do that. Go to tgrn.net for all the details. And we thank you for listening to us. That's tgrn.net. Stands for True Grit Roots Network, based out of Austin, Texas. I found the TGRN glass. So last week when I didn't have it, it was hidden from me, but I did find it, and so now I have it available. But that doesn't work for a drink like this, because that would have been really small. You got to have something a little bit bigger. And the mason jars, these little mason jars, work great. for this kind of item. Ooh, that is a refreshing summertime drink, I'm telling you. All right. Got to take a deep breath. This is a very heavy subject. And already the left has already started with their rhetoric and their bullshit. And yes, I am going to call out their bullshit. Okay. And I'm just telling you right now that, I mean, Amy Klobuchar has already started the conversation. Okay. Has already started the conversation. And, so anyway, they're calling for gun control. Now, let's be clear about a couple of things here. Okay. Let's just be very clear about a couple of things. These people who perform these activities, these horrific acts, okay, they are literally mentally ill. Period. It doesn't matter. All of them are mentally ill. Every single one. Okay? Now, the second thing I want to make clear is that at this moment, this particular shooter apparently has had some issues with identifying their gender. This does not mean that every single transgender individual is automatically going to be a murder, killing, spree kind of individual, okay? The risk factors do increase with certain things, just like a heart attack will increase. Your risk of a heart attack increases as you age and as the more that you are overweight. But that does not mean that every single person who is overweight is going to have a heart attack. It's the exact same thing here, okay? So just because this individual appears to have been identifying or attempting to identify as a different gender does not mean that we need to lump this person in with all of the rest that we may encounter or see, okay? Again, there is something beyond for an individual to attack people in this manner, much less alone children in this manner. And the Bongino rule, 72-hour Bongino rule, kind of sort of is in effect here. We can't necessarily trust everything that is going to be presented in the next 72 hours. That being said, okay, all right, some of the things that are coming out were presented by the gunman himself, all right? He posted his manifesto online, reportedly or had it scheduled in a YouTube video. And some people have clips of that video before it was taken down that they've been sharing and spreading around. And I can tell you that the individual had some serious challenges. Some serious challenges. They had some statements where they were, there was at least one racist statement that I saw in the video clip that I saw. There was at least one other, comment about Trump. He wanted to kill Trump. So, anyway, apparently this individual's mother did work for the school. Now, let's also be clear. The original reports were that it was a school that was shot up. It actually wasn't a school. It was a group of elementary K through 8 school children who were at the church that is adjacent to or just down the block. I haven't had that quite completely clarified. And they were in Catholic Mass that morning. Okay? And so that individual reportedly, and this part isn't confirmed. I'll try and discern what's confirmed and what isn't. But apparently that individual went and barred some of the doors to prevent these people from escaping while they opened fire from outside the window, from outside the church. Now, this occurred in Minnesota. It was part of the Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis. And they injured somewhere in the counts of 17 to 20. I've heard 17 consistently. So 17 were injured. 17 to 20. My understanding is 17 or 14 of those 17 were children. Okay. The individual did unfortunately kill 2 children. And I've heard that two of the injured were in critical condition. So there may be a possibility that a third has passed from this. Now, the gunman in his early 20s died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the parking lot. The 2 children that were killed, according to the Minneapolis police chief, were aged 8 and 10. The students were attending Mass at the Catholic Church, which was next to the school, when the shooter opened fire. The shooter apparently was carrying a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. And the video, by the way, shows the rifle and the shotgun and all of the magazines that he had loaded for all of this. He reportedly fired what is reported to be dozens of rounds. Police believe that the shooter fired all 3 weapons, and that, again, he barricaded the students and staff in the church by placing wooden planks against some of the side doors. The FBI quickly responded, and by the way, the FBI is investigating this as a hate crime at the moment. And considering some of the images and some of the stuff that the shooter apparently had written on his magazines and his weapons, this person had quite a few screws loose. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all. Okay. I will not say the individual's name because that's the way that we roll around here, unless I accidentally say something about it. But yeah. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, 23. Apparently, 23 is the age that they're doing, and this individual posted radical videos in the hour before the attack. Apparently, this individual did file for a name change to go from the male version over to a female version. Court filings do show that the mother signed off on the name change, since at the time her son was a minor. It all started apparently around 8:30 a.m. when the shooter fired through the windows of the Catholic school's church. Video obtained by the Daily Wire shows that it was a YouTube user, posted a disturbing video on Wednesday morning with the caption, "So long and thanks for all the fish." Video shows an individual thumbing through a notebook filled with Russian and English journal entries, as well as pictures of guns, diagrams of his attacks, and a transgender defend equality flag sticker. Throughout the video, you can hear him in the background muttering, whispering, and giggling in disturbing fashion. And then as the video concludes, the shooter thumbs through the pages of his notebook as he whispers, "I can't deal with this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I have to go. I have to go." He apparently panned the camera to a page in his notebook where it's written in big English scrawl, sick F, murderer, ha 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 ha, villain. He whispers aloud, "Oh my God," gives the middle finger to the page before grabbing what appears to be a pistol and pressing it to the page of the book. I mean, these are just the ramblings of a lost, very disturbed individual. There's more about this too. I mean, Daily Wire has it on their page. So there's also some other disturbing moments in the video. In the videos, there's multiples. So yeah. Apparently, New York Post's Diana Glebova was able to translate some of the journal. Remember, it was written in Russian and English. Translated some of the journal and found that the individual who wrote it repeatedly discussed his hatred for Jews as well. He apparently wrote in one entry, "If I will carry out a racially motivated attack, it would most likely be against the filthy Zionist Jews." Adding in another entry, it was stated, "I hate those entitled penny-sniffing cakes? I don't know. Anyway, in another, he wrote 6 million wasn't enough, referring to the number of the Jewish Holocaust victims. Yeah. He had one of his guns written on it, "Israel must fall, release the files." He also wrote about assassinating President Trump as well as the Jews. But he also apparently reflected that killing children of innocent civilians would give him the most joy. So again, this is a very, very sick individual. Also, according to the New York Post, he wrote, "While I don't really like being around people of color, I don't give enough of a shit about them to take my life for them." Yeah. So apparently other videos show that the individual who posted this had an obsession with shooters, including the Sandy Hook shooter. He also drew a sketch of the church itself. Yeah. So there is just some seriously disturbing stuff. And you can find it if you want to look around on social media, but seriously disturbing stuff here. But one thing that I do want to talk about, I mean, more so than just the horrific nature of this account, is people's reaction to it. One in particular was the leftist mayor who, and now depending upon how you view this video, I'm just going to say, okay, depending upon how you viewed this video and what this guy is saying, you can either agree with him or you can think that he is kind of being basically a POS for this. And I'm not trying to defend him. I do understand that he was obviously in a little bit of shock and anger about the whole thing, but the way that he goes about talking about this, to me, seems a little contrite. Best word that I can come up with. Let's take a listen to him as he talks about the update. This was earlier today on the schools.
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country. I'm so deeply saddened, and I'm so sorry to the families that I know are suffering right now.
Okay, so you can obviously hear his angst and his anguish in this entire thing. And honestly, I mean, he talks about the fact that, you know, prayers, hopes and prayers, or prayers and whatever, I mean, whatever it was that he used, the terminology that he used is not enough. And I'm essentially going to challenge him with this. You're right. I agree. Prayers, obviously, are not enough. Sitting here and offering up, you know, prayers at the end of this entire event, or any of the events that we've gone through, you're right, it's not enough. Because of the fact that and that's because he's a Democrat, I'm calling on the Democrats right now. Calling on the Democrats right this second. You need to change your thought processes when it comes to protecting these children. Because, frankly, I'm getting a little sick and tired of all of these people sitting here and talking about, oh, you know, we just can't do anything to protect the kids. And the one thing that we do need to do is remove guns, because guns are the problem. Folks, guns are not the problem. Guns are a tool. No different than a hammer is a tool. No different than a car is a tool. And statistics definitely show that hammers and cars are used to kill more people every single year than guns. What the left doesn't tell you in terms of their statistics that they use is the fact that the vast majority of gun violence in America are caused by criminals. That the vast majority of victims of gun discharges in America are suicides. When you strip out things like gang violence and you strip out things like suicidality, the actual number of people who die from a gun-related incident comes down a lot. And I mean a lot. Now, you want to stop gun violence as a whole. I have a simple, I think it's 3 steps, 3-step plan for you. Step number one. And this one we can take immediately. Immediately. Harden the schools. Get rid of these stupid ass, and yes, I am calling them stupid ass gun-free zones. Get rid of them. Okay? Harden the schools. Have bulletproof or bullet resistant, because there really isn't any bulletproof, but bullet resistant glass put in. Have doors that don't lock from the inside, but definitely are locked from the outside. Take and make, when school is in session, there's only one way into the building. Harden the schools. Okay? That's step number one, or point number one. These aren't actually real steps. They're actions to take. Here's the second action. Punish criminal behavior. Okay? I'm simply pointing this out. The leftist Democrats have consistently been hands off with criminals. They lower the type of crime that is the severity of the crime oftentimes. And oh, you're supposed to feel for the criminal. No. Get rid of that idea. Get rid of that idea. Third, you need to address the mental illness problem that we apparently have in this country. Now, here's some statistics. This comes from justfacts.com. Justfacts.com. Okay? Justfacts.com. So, between 1976 and 2018, according to the journal Criminology and Public Policy, at least 158 people committed what's called indiscriminate mass shootings, which is exactly what this was. Among those perpetrators, about 35% of those suffered from paranoid schizophrenia. About 61% had been either diagnosed with a mental disorder or demonstrated signs of serious mental illness prior to the attack. In 2021, the Journal of Clinical Psychopharmacology published a study of people who committed a mass shooting from 1982 to 2019 and had survived. The study focused on the survivors as opposed to those who died because, of course, the live ones actually are able to be studied. Among the 35 mass shooters who survived, here's the breakdown. 80% of them had some sort of a psychiatric diagnosis. 51% of those 35 had schizophrenia. 9 of them had a bipolar, what they called bipolar I disorder. 6% of them had a delusional disorder. 6% had a personality disorder. 6% had substance-related disorders. And 3% had post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, here's the thing. And this is something that the mainstream media, the leftists, will not talk about. Almost every single one of these individuals had some sort of a impact by what is known as adverse childhood experiences. Meaning that what has been going on, and including things like substance abuse within the home, violence or abuse within the home, parents who were incarcerated or not even there, parental mental health issues, and all of these problems, all of these particular adverse childhood experiences contributed to the issue. So now I move on to point number 4. which is essentially that we need to get rid of the idea that being a single parent is something to be celebrated, that giving up a stable marriage, because again, studies have demonstrated that a lot of these children who are in these situations, who act out on these things, they don't have a stable home environment. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to focus on family, faith, community support. These 4 items, if all 4 are enacted in concert with one another, you will find that many of these will drop off. Now, again, I just want to point out, being a single mother or a single father does not necessarily preclude you to guarantee that you are going to be one of these individuals, because you're not. I was raised for a period of time by a single parent. But the fact of the matter is that the risk factors increase once those particular items start falling into place. The risk factors for somebody turning out on the bad side of this entire situation increase dramatically. Now, I also want to point out something as well. There was a problem that back in the early 80s, from the 80s into the 90s, there was this thing that what the Congress did is they essentially defunded all of the public psychiatric hospitals. Folks, this was an experiment. And before anybody sits here and says, oh, Ronald Reagan did it. No, actually, he didn't. You got to remember, the Congress that he was working with was Democrat. Okay? Tip O'Neill was in charge, and he was a Democrat. He was predominantly Democrat. Now, here's the thing. The portion of the U.S. population that has actually gone into public psychiatric hospitals has significantly decreased since that situation, since that defunding from the federal level. Now, I'm not saying that the federal government needs to fund these things, but I definitely need to think that government needs to get involved in some way, shape, or form. Now, there was a book in 1997. It was an academic book called America's Mental Illness Crisis. And from that book, there are a couple of quotes. One in particular is the magnitude of deinstitutionalization of the severely mentally ill qualifies it as one of the largest social experiments in American history. About 763,391 severely mentally ill people, over 750,000, are living in the community today who would have been hospitalized 40 years ago. And this is this kind of a thought process in terms of the institutionalization, the removal of things like corporal punishment in schools, things like allowing parents to punish corporally at home, the whole idea of that everybody is a winner. All of these things, while not necessarily directly related, can be tangentially connected to the idea that we're sitting on a society here in America. We're sitting on a society that is essentially, you can't be told no. You can't be told that you're wrong. You can't be told that you yourself are in a class of people that you don't, they just don't. It's all this Everything's got to be perfect. You've always got to succeed. No, you need to teach these kids that fairness only exists, and even then, only exists in terms of a fantasy world. That life itself is not fair. That you're not going to be treated fairly. You're going to have to go through several different strifes in life, that you have to deal with loss and disappointment and failure. You have to. You cannot sit here and just be expected that, hey, for an example, just because I show up for work, I should get a six-figure income. That's bullcrap. You have to work for what you want. Now, there is a correlation, not necessarily a causation, but a correlation to the deinstitutionalization period. I'm going to point this out to you. This graph is in, let's see if I can get it larger. There we go. So this graph is showing before the average incidence per year, meaning the average incident of a indiscriminate mass shooting, from all the way from 1900 all the way to 1965 was less than 1 per year. 1966 to 1999, where people started changing their ideas and changing the thought processes in terms of institutionalization of these people. It went up to just about 4 per year. And now, from 2000 all the way up to 2018, we have roughly 5 per year. Now, notice that big-ass jump from before we tried that mass deinstitutionalization to now, where putting somebody in a hospital is a bad thing. Yeah. This is not the case, folks. We need to change the narrative. We need to change the leftist narrative that everything is hunky-dory, everything is sunshine and rainbows, and you're wearing your rose-colored glasses, and you should get the pay you want. You should be treated the way you want. You should always be, in a happiness, because other people are responsible for your happiness, which, by the way, is a total bunch of bullshit. I'm just saying. But when you look at things like this and you start to realize and you start to break this down and you realize that every single indiscriminate mass shooter, every single one, has had some sort of mental illness, either been previously diagnosed with it, or in this particular case, not in this particular case, but or have had it done afterward, through the mind of the individual who did it and the writings that they left behind. We need to start looking directly at the problem. Forget this crap. Forget this crap about, oh, well, it's the gun that's the problem. It's easy access to guns that are the problem. Again, folks, again, this is not a tool issue. This is a person who is holding the tool issue. You sit here and you talk about taking away guns and everything else, they'll just find another way to do it. It's obvious. More people have been killed, I should say, from blunt objects. From blunt objects, such as hands, fists, hammers, than all guns combined. Year over year. Now, everybody sits here and talks about, oh, well, you know what? Japan is like, they have no guns whatsoever. They're not allowed to have guns. They have nothing, and they don't have any of these problems. You don't hear about people blowing blowing up schools or attacking people with knives or anything else. Well, guess what, folks? There's also another correlation here that nobody seems to want to talk about. This is a graph, again, from justfacts.com. This compares the psychiatric institutionalization rates of developed nations back in 2019. I want you to look at the big bar graph the big bar that's right here above the top of my head. This one. Let me move out of the way. Oh my gosh, look at that label. Look at that label right there. It's Japan. It's Japan. Japan institutionalizes nearly over 0.25% of the population. They actually institutionalize people. And where's the United States? Oh, they're all the way down in like 7th place in terms of the number of people. You talk about Europe as an example. Well, let me point out to you here on the graph. Belgium, Germany, Lithuania, Norway, Latvia, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, France, let's see, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Greece, Austria, Slovenia, Portugal, Poland, England, Denmark, Estonia, Sweden, even Spain, Iceland, Canada is even ahead of us. Folks, our problem with these kinds of things has literally very little, if anything, to do with guns in our environment. It has very little to do with the tool being used. It has everything to do with the fact that we here in America, for whatever reason, our societal values, and I'm laying this entire thing at the feet of the leftists, because they constantly have been like, well, your words are violence. You got to teach these kids to understand that they are not going to have the sunshine, rainbows, and roses on the far end. They need to be taught how loss, believe it or not, as much as you don't want your kid to run through bullying, every single kid does. You can try and take steps against it, but every single kid is going to go through it in some way, shape, or form. And if you mentally prepare these people or these youngsters for that, you can prevent things like what just happened. Folks, you want to solve the school shootings and mass shootings that are like this? You want to solve this? I'm telling you, 4 steps. 4 actions that can be taken. I don't want to call them relatively easy, but 4 actions that can be taken. Harden the schools, incarcerate criminals, focus on the family, faith, and community support, and deal with mental health issues. 4 things. That's it. 4 items that can be worked on and implemented, and you would see a drastic reduction in these events occurring. Notice I'm not saying they'll be gone forever, because realistically, what you need to understand too is that evil still exists, and evil will find a way, which is why I go to that mayor of Minneapolis who was sitting there talking about these kids were praying. Don't tell me about your thoughts and prayers. But I hate to tell you this, folks. Evil exists. It's going to exist forever. You cannot get rid of it. You can try, but the only time that I'm aware of that'll be the last time that evil will exist will be when Jesus returns to this planet and vanquishes everything. Folks, you need to understand, this is not a problem that is being able to be taken care of by just removing the tool. This is a problem that goes much deeper than that. This is a problem that needs to be addressed. And like I said, if you do those 4 items, those 4 things on my list, I guarantee you this stuff will stop. It's no different than criminals acting out. If you take a criminal, and this is true, 100% true, if you make the doing of the bad thing harder and more undesirable than doing of the good thing, you won't have issues. Make the punishment worse, much worse than the reward of doing the right thing. Make the punishment worse. You make it bad, people won't do it. It's simple conditioning. Simple conditioning. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to go and, be all badass and, punish people all the time. But I guarantee you that if you take the first 2 or 3 incidences of whatever kind of thing that you show whatever kind of behavior you're attempting to stop, and you demonstrate quickly that they are going to suffer a punishment that is worse than what they could even imagine. Guarantee you the first 2 or 3, and you won't see it ever again. Won't see it ever again. All right. I just get so frustrated with these things, and I feel so bad for the parents that have to go through this. I feel bad for the kids that go through this. In fact, there's a video. I'm not going to play it. I don't even have it up here, but there's a video of a young boy who describes how his friend, who is okay, by the way, but how his friend loved him enough that he grabbed him, put him under, and laid on top of him, and did get hit by one of the bullets. But he basically saved his buddy. There's a video out about that. It's just horrific to even think that these people, these young children have to go through this. But the fact of the matter is that it's been a long period of time coming. And by the way, just so you're aware, the assault weapons ban of 1994 did literally nothing. Did literally nothing to all of this. Did literally nothing for all of this. In fact, it didn't even make a dent, which is part of the reason why it wasn't even renewed. It's not the guns, folks. It's our approach to mental health. It's our approach to family. It's our societal approach to all of these things. Now, one thing I will say is that if you want to really know more, there are analyses that have been put out by the U.S. Secret Service. And one of the things that they noted is that pretty much all students who have had this happen, they had histories of school discipline and contact with law enforcement. So it's not as though these people are just coming out of the woodwork unknowingly, just, wow, bang, there they are. No, somebody knew something. Somebody knew something. This is ridiculous. They also, the Secret Service also pointed out that students by themselves are best positioned to identify and report concerning behaviors displayed by their classmates. So if you see something, say something. I'm just saying. The role of parents also, and families, recognizing what are concerning behavior is also critical to prevention on this. Again, you're dealing with people who are interacting with these folks every single day. Yeah. So anyway, there's a bunch of other things that are here that are part of this assessment. There's two of them. There was one done in 2019 and another one done in 2021 by the Secret Service. And I would think that the Secret Service would be uniquely qualified to talk about protection of individuals. So, yeah, there you go. All right, let me go ahead and let's get a ad read in before I move to my next topic. All right, I wake up in the morning and I have my good old coffee cup, the big mug, the mug that says "Father like no other, came from my kids. I will have it until it breaks." Every time I drink out of it, I certainly appreciate their thoughtfulness with that gift. And I fill it with 16 ounces of great coffee. Well, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's a few limited number of units available. Within each unit, you are getting their big, bold, dark roast that hits hard. You'll also be able to try the smooth medium roast in case you're not interested in the dark roasts. And you'll also get a chance to try the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you'll also get, as a part of this kit, my personal favorite, a gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You'll also get a frother that is strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but also your mother-in-law's opinions on just about everything, including your parenting style or your politics. You'll also receive a black 1775 tumbler. All of this is manufactured priced at $170 worth of coffee and gear, but they are giving it to you in this special offer for just $99. $99 for $170 worth of coffee and gear. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Head on over to 1775coffee.com. That's the numbers 1775, the word coffee, all together, all one word, .com/studio, STUDIO. And that /, by the way, is a question mark key on your keyboard. And grab your starter kit before they are gone. Once again, that is 1775coffee.com /studio, STUDIO, to get your starter kit before they are no longer available. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee /studio and grab your starter kit today. All right. Well, folks, we've got a little bit of a problem with the leftist agenda with all of this. Apparently, and we're just now finding this out, but this is in this is part of the reason what I'm talking about here. This is in dailywire.com, okay? Minnesota Catholic school leader warned the governor, Tim Walz, of critical school safety threats. And reportedly, the governor ignored it. So, reportedly, according to this article, 2 years before a shooter opened fire today, the leaders of independent and Catholic schools in Minnesota begged Democrat Governor Tim Walz for help securing their schools. Now, here's something that you need to understand here, people. Okay, Minnesota has a plentiful Muslim population. So does Michigan, especially around Dearborn. And what a lot of people here in the West, especially here in America, seem to think is that we believe in religious freedom. We believe in the ability to worship your God, whatever God that is, in a way, however you so choose. The problem is that not everybody believes that same way. We're seeing that in the Middle East. As an example, the Palestinian people, everybody is crying about the Palestinian people, but what they gloss over is the fact that those same Palestinian people want to destroy Israel, which is a Jewish nation. That there are many places in the Middle East where Christians and Jews and anyone who is not Muslim get killed. There's places in Africa the same way. Even in China. China has people like the Uyghurs. They're getting killed because of whatever purposes and reasons. Folks, people do not think like we do here in America. And we need to understand that. We need to start realizing that as we import these people, regardless of whether they come here on their own, in their own immigration, or whether they come here illegally as illegal aliens, it doesn't matter. When you start importing these beliefs, and especially when you start importing beliefs that are contrary to the values and principles that have been outlined in the United States Constitution, and as a part of its founding, which, again, I'm just going to point out is a Judeo-Christian principles and values-based country. You're going to start running into conflicts like this. Now, I'm not saying that that was the case here. However, I am saying this, that we need to understand that our world, however isolated that it has been, has come under attack and is at risk by things that Biden and his administration did. By bringing in people unvetted through an open border, essentially, that these kinds of scenarios are going to occur more and more often. Now here, according to a letter dated April 14th, 2023, and again, this is in the Daily Wire, specifically addressed school safety in non-public schools. Tim Benz, the president of Minnesota Independent, I'm imagining that's the school organization, and Jason Adkins, who is the executive director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference, stressed an urgent and critical need in Minnesota to make sure our schools are secure and safe in the light of recent and continuing attacks on our schools in this country and in our state. The letter itself states that there are about 72,000 students in independent Catholic, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim non-public schools within the state of Minnesota. That letter came just weeks after the Christian school shooting in Tennessee. Folks, our world is getting worse in terms of the level of uncertainty and criminality that there is in this world. It's getting worse, not better. And honestly, it can be tied, again, correlation, not necessarily causation, but correlated to the fact that we are allowing immigrants who are unvetted, immigrants who have no intention of melting into our society, who want to change here into there, even though they left there to come here. And if you follow that, that's fantastic. People, you need to understand, not every single society is going to want the same thing that Americans do, that the West does. There are several societies in this world who all view American Western values as simply abhorrent. And yet they come here and they want to change us rather than staying where they are at. And we, in terms of the leftists, for whatever reason, are like, oh, no, come on over here. Here's a perfect example. Perfect example. Have you seen, the gays for Palestine? Or the LGBTQ folks for Palestine? What they don't realize is if they actually went to Palestine, they'd be thrown off a freaking roof. They would be ostracized, they would be beaten, stoned, and killed for their lifestyle. And yet they sit here and they beg and plead and talk about, oh, yeah, we all know that the Palestinians, there's a video that I saw on social media where there was a guy that was sitting here and going, he was standing there, he's like, we all know that the Palestinians have homosexual, gays and so on and so forth. Folks, no, they don't. They don't, because they're closeted and they will get killed. Even if you're a Christian over there, you will likely get killed. See, there are people in this world who do not believe as we do. There are people in this world who wish nothing but misery and pain on us here, just because of our beliefs. And we're seeing this play out in a very horrific way in places like England and Scotland. I don't know if anybody caught this. And there's very little information, realistically, about this. Okay? There's very little information about this particular case. But apparently there was a 14-year-old Scottish girl who was essentially protecting a 12-year-old girl. Now, one of the things that you may not have heard about or talking about was the fact that most of Europe has been plagued, by the way, with this influx of immigrants. And these immigrants who are coming from societies that are not Western, they all believe that sexual molestation of children is perfectly fine, that it's no big deal. And this unlimited, illegal, and unmonitored immigration from countries that they have nothing in common with, no societal values are common across the board in many of these places. And they're coming into Europe in particular, because I'm talking about Scotland. They're coming into Europe, and these girls and even the boys are being subjected to these, the best way is grooming mobs that are running around, that are trying to get these girls and women to get used to the fact that, they're just going to be sexually abused in later life by these people. These immigrants that are coming in here do not have the same societal standards that we do. And they look at things like rape and pillage and plunder as a good thing, as something that should be done. It's causing some serious problems. Now, what's worse is the fact that, let me get back to this case. This 14-year-old girl, who has apparently been pursued by a number of migrants who are off screen here. This 14-year-old girl who should be safe, comfortable in her own environment, in her own community. She's reportedly carrying a knife and some sort of a hatchet or axe. And she pulls them out to protect the 12-year-old from being pursued by these people. The location is reportedly Dundee, Scotland. The oldest girl produces these weapons and tells the migrants to step away. The teens are obviously distressed in this video, as the grown men stand around her. Another account basically states that one of the girls, one or both potentially, may have been groped or manhandled by the migrants before this incident even occurs. Now, folks, you need to understand that under normal circumstances, this individual, this young girl, who was protecting herself out of fear, apparently, would and should have been left alone. In fact, the migrants should have been taken into custody. But that's not what happened. This 14-year-old girl was apparently arrested. Police in Scotland, a spokesperson, said around 7:40 p.m. on Saturday, we received a report of a female youth with a bladed weapon in what they call St. Anne Lane, Dundee. Officers attended and a 14-year-old girl was charged in connection. She will be reported to the relevant authorities. People, if you want America to become where Europe and England are, where Europe and England are today, just keep voting for leftists. Keep voting for the dumbasses like the guy in New York. Keep voting for the Tim Walzes who embrace this type of behavior. Keep voting for these people who are trying to destroy our values, our principles, the values and principles that this country was built upon. Vote for them if that's what you want. Because apparently you're sick in the head anyway. There's no way to sit here and understate this. As an example, John Schmendlin on X He posted this. Take a look at this difference. The number of rapes that were recorded in the year of 2000 in England and Wales, a little over 8,500. In Germany, a little over 8,100. In France, 7,500. In Poland, not quite, 2,400. In 2024, that number has, I don't even know, astronomically increased. The number of rapes that are recorded in England and Wales in 2024 was just over 68,000. In Germany, just over 39,000. In France, almost 42,500. In Poland, it actually went down to 1,127. There was a gentleman in Germany. He was an American student. There was a woman, apparently, I think she was on some sort of a train or whatever, a tram, and the American, stepped in to try and help save her. He got knifed in the face. He was a model, got his face disfigured by immigrants. Folks, I'm just simply pointing this out. I can't ignore the facts. I cannot ignore the facts. The facts are that if we allow this to continue, these kinds of things to continue in our country is going to be no better than the third world that we are importing. There's stories that are coming out of England in particular where the local government isn't even bothering to block these rape gangs who are sexually abusing and sometimes trafficking working class English girls. They've been proven to be mostly Pakistani men. Now, I'm not saying all Pakistani men are this way, but again, you want to talk about profiling and that kind of thing? That would be that would be a profile. And a rightful one, too. Folks, we're at a crux. We're at a point right now where we need to address not only the mental illness in this country, because that's literally what is happening, is the mental illness in this country has gone way out of control. But we also need to understand and realize that there are societies in this world that do not believe as we do. And those societies are not, and I say this again, are not suitable to come here and be a part of our society. They are not suitable to join in the American dream. They are not suitable to come here and be a part of the melting pot. And if I am going to be called names for stating a reality, then so be it. The reality is there is evil in this world. There are people who do not belong here. Period. These people who do not believe as we do, who do not believe in leaving people alone, who do not believe in live and let live, who do not believe in freedom, they don't need to be here. We need to come back to the principle and the value. I mean, even Benjamin Franklin and several others of our founding fathers who spent time. Now, they called them by a different name, but they basically said the Muslim men, and they spelled it differently. But even back then, they recognized that these people are not the same. They do not believe in the same things that we do. We need to get back to the point that we need to understand that we need to protect our country and our people from places and people like this. You want to come here? Fine. You want to come here and you want to be a part of our country? That's fine too. You want to be a part of this country and be a part of making it great? We're more than willing to welcome you. But you need to have the same foundational values and principles that we, the American people, have before you are allowed in to this country. And what's interesting about all of this is the fact that there are people who are getting tired of these criminals and, all of this criminal behavior and everything else. And they are ripping on Trump for attempting to try and resolve these criminal behaviors, to try and get rid of these illegal aliens who are here, who do not follow our laws, who do not follow our principles and values, who prey upon the American people. And the left goes after him all the time for doing what is essentially his job, which is to protect this country. And these leftists are extremely shocked whenever somebody does call this out. Now, there was a CNN reporter who approached a woman in Chicago. And she basically asked a question about her thoughts on Trump's suggestion that he may send the National Guard into Chicago. And I don't think this CNN reporter, and by the way, this is in Daily Fetched, I don't think the CNN reporter was ready for the response. Take a listen.
My first reaction was that this is a good thing. I think that the governor as well as the mayor should be on board with it just so we can get a bit more of security in Chicago the way that we need.
The crime has dropped since 2024. Do you feel like the city feels safer?
No, not at all. No, especially with the police being defunded.
Okay, did you hear that? Especially with the police being defunded. Now, we also know, for an example, in D.C., they actually had commanders caught juking the crime stats. They actually had, and this happens, by the way, in Democrat cities, where they take the crimes and rather than charging them where they should be, they're actually charged with a lesser crime in order to demonstrate that, for an example, violent crime is not growing or not high within a particular city. Because the Democrats have been basically shellacked on the idea of crime in relation to the Republicans. These people need to understand. These leftists, if you're a leftist, I need you to understand something. Okay? This is the situation. The American people are tired of this lawlessness. They are tired of being taken advantage of. They are tired of being told that we no longer have a right to stand up and fight for our country, to fight for our countrymen, to be safe and secure in our persons, which is guaranteed by the Constitution, by the way. This is why, leftists, you have lost. You have lost your way. You no longer believe in the American value system. You no longer believe in what the American people believe in. And this is why you are going through this situation. It's why you have mental illness problems here. It's why you have all of this stuff, because you've denied reality. You've denied truth. You've denied the fact that you, leftist, lunatic morons, are in the wrong. And that you clearly are the more violent ones. You clearly are the ones who are not only racist, but also are bigoted, violent offenders. You are clearly out of touch with the American folks, the American people. Clearly. Not that I care whether or not you get back on track, because frankly, I don't. I personally think that even if you decided to change your wicked ways, you'll still be that snake in the grass that's going to raise its head and bite. You'll be like that freaking crocodile in the fable with regarding to the, I think it's a duck and a turtle or whatever that's trying to cross a stream or whatever. The crocodile just has to act the way that it does because it's a crocodile. The leftists have to act the way they do because they're a leftist, a moron, out of touch with reality. All right, folks. Let's take another drink here. All right, let me get one last read in here. All right. Well, for any of you who are the outdoor kind of crew, if you're into fishing, camping, or getting off the grid, meet your new best friend. It's the Hunter Orange 25-quart cooler from Caddis Sports. That's Caddis Sports. This isn't your average cooler, folks. It's roto-molded for max durability, bear-proof, and 20% lighter than other brands. So it's easy to haul, whether you're deep in the backcountry or just setting up on the dock. You'll get up to 3 days of ice retention thanks to thick, high-performance insulation. That means cold drinks, fresh food, and fewer ice runs, whether you're chasing muttons offshore or posted up at a campsite or your favorite beach. The best part? It's 40 to 50% cheaper than the big-name coolers, but it's still built to perform season after season. And just like all of Caddis Sports' name brand gear, it's proudly made in the USA. Use promo code RUMBLE, that's RUMBLE, at checkout for 10% off your order today. Go to Caddis Sports, CADDIS sports.com. Use promo code RUMBLE at checkout for 10% off your order. Go to Caddis Sports, CADDIS sports.com. Use promo code RUMBLE for 10% off your order. Go and grab the orange 25-quart cooler and keep your next adventure ice cold. All right, last item on this list here that I have here is, you remember that judge, that federal judge in Wisconsin? Her name Hannah Dugan. She, The federal judge in Wisconsin has turned down her bid to dismiss her case. So now she is going to be going to trial for the charges that she obstructed immigration officers who came to her courtroom to make an arrest. About damn time. In an opinion issued yesterday, Judge Lynn Adelman of the Eastern District of Wisconsin rejected Dukin's argument that her conduct was protected under the doctrine of judicial immunity, which generally shields jurists from being sued for actions taken in their official capacity. The opinion stated there is no basis for granting immunity simply because some of the allegations in the indictment describe conduct that could be considered part of a judge's job. The same is true in the bribery prosecutions, concededly valid, where the judges were prosecuted for performing official acts intertwined with bribery. The federal judge Adelman also dismissed the defense's attempt to link the case to the Supreme Court ruling last summer that President Donald Trump is at least preemptively immune from criminal prosecution for official acts. Yeah. Anyway, so she's finally going to get her due for her stupidity, thinking she is above the law. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel, hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up or thumbs down across all of my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening. Pray for those souls that are being affected by this tragedy. And we will see you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.